What's up YouTube? W. Troy here in my first YouTube video. Today we're going to go over how to become a successful reseller in the sneaker market or even just in general. I'm going to go over just a quick introduction to myself. So I've been reselling sneakers since my senior year of high school. I really got big into it my senior year of high school. I would go to all the sneaker cons, all those kind of events up and down the East Coast, and you buy and sell sneakers. I was really into it, and then I went to school, went to college, got my degree and all that kind of stuff, so kind of slowed down a little bit. And then now with this COVID-19 situation, I've kind of had some more time on my hands, so I figured maybe I can get into the sneaker botting thing. I was always curious about how that worked and see if I can start up my reselling again, and it's done really well in the first couple months that I started back up. So we're going to go over 4 main topics on how to become a successful reseller. The first one being your sneaker knowledge and knowledge in general. The second one being capital. How much capital can you invest into the sneaker market? The third one being your network. Who do you know? Where can you sell? And then the last one being bots. I know a lot of people ask me on Twitter, what bots do you use? What's your setup? What proxies and all that? I'll probably end up making a separate video for each bot that I use, but this will be at least a good introduction of how you can become a successful reseller in this crazy sneaker world. Okay, so to begin with the first topic of knowledge. So within the sneaker world, you definitely have to know what you need to buy, what you should buy, what's trending, what's a good buy. There's a lot of things that we have. There's bricks, there's certain shoes that you should hold. There's obviously hype releases like maybe Jordan 1s or off-white shoes and so forth. There are Yeezys that are also hyped. Then you have things that are like GRs that you maybe can get a lot of quantity and then sell for a lower margin, but you're selling a lot in that high quantity, and then that works for you as well. And then there's things that people, if you don't have the sneaker knowledge, you're not really going to know what could I buy in the market right now in order to make a profit. So I'm going to go over a couple things here that I'll show you. Let's go ahead with the first example. So the first example would be a hold. So this is a GS Royal Toe that I have. I have a couple of these that I've been holding just because I know the market is going to go up. I've got a couple that I got for retail off of some restocks and off the initial release. This one I think is a size 5.5. Basically the idea with something like this, if you go look at the market price and the trending price of other GS Jordan 1s or even the men's sizes or women's sizes depending on the shoe, you'll see that after about a year or two, a shoe like this, I think right now it's about $300. It'll end up being closer to $600 or $700. If you look at a comparable shoe to this would be the bread toe ones, you'll see that that shoe is $600-700 right now. So things like this, where if you're trying to play more of the stock market of shoes, you can buy a bunch of these when they first come out for maybe $250 to $300 is what they were going for initially, and then sit on them for maybe a year or two and you make money that way. So this is something we would call a hold. There's other shoes that you can do this with that are bricks, so let me go ahead and jump into those next. Okay, so we're gonna jump into the second thing. This is bricks. So what we call bricks are something that, they're not reselling for a lot right now. You can't really make money off a shoe like this. However, if you think about it, right now, this shoe is going for maybe $130 on StockX, and they've been retailing for about $120 right now after the tax and shipping and everything. So a shoe like this though, it looks almost exactly like the Chicago ones. Obviously I know it's a mid versus a high, and then it does have the white heel, but a shoe like this, I could imagine being at least $200, maybe in a couple months, maybe in a year. But this is something where, people will sleep on this shoe, or there's people that will hold hundreds of these, and in an amount of time, it'll go up by 20 or $30. And then, if you have 100 of them and you sell them at a $20 to $30 over, you're making $2 to $3 grand. So this is another thing where we'll flip bricks. Another one that's a good example is the black toe. I actually had 60 pair of these when they first came out, and unfortunately I didn't have the capital at the time to hold all 60 of them. So I only made maybe $5-10 per shoe that I sold, which is still some profit. But right now they're going for this is a 7.5. I think it's $200 in StockX last time I checked. Same with GOAT. So a shoe like this, you could buy and hold, and again, it's similar to the white heel. This is just a guarantee. This is something that when you know your sneaker knowledge, you'll just know in the trends, this is something that is going to be worth it to hold. So the sneaker knowledge is definitely a big thing. There's another part with knowledge that you can jump into, and we'll go into that now. So there's some other things that you can buy and resell. So since COVID-19 has been kind of a thing right now, a lot of people are at home and working from home. So things that I really got into is buying and selling Nintendo Switches. I probably have had at least 30, maybe even more than that. And I don't make like crazy money selling them. I know at first it was really crazy. People were paying like 500 bucks per and stuff like that. I got into it a little bit late, but I still sell Nintendo Switches pretty consistently for like 360 to 400 bucks, depending if it's on eBay, if it's a local person or something. And those little flips do add up really quickly. The other things that I've been getting into recently are Funkos. So this is a Steve Aoki Toy Tokyo exclusive. I have like 6 of these still. Unfortunately, they're not selling for as much as I wanted them to right now, but they still sell for maybe like 30 to 40 bucks. And I paid $22 for it, and like it's something to where if I end up holding on to this guy for a little bit, like it's not gonna break the bank. However, I did have the other Toy Tokyo exclusive Scaramouche from Samurai Jack, and that pop figure I had 16 of them. I sold all of them for 60 to 65 each. So I made about 30 bucks after the shipping and the fees and stuff. That's another thing too with like the knowledge where you can do more than just buying and selling in sneakers, like the Nintendo Switch example, and then same thing with the Funko Pops. There's other things that you can jump into, but definitely knowing first. I've definitely made really bad mistakes on Funko Pops. I bought some of the McDonald's collection recently and they're not reselling at all. So those are things that you can look out for that are not sneakers, but you can still make money on. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and jump into the second point, which would be capital. So with capital, basically what we mean is, do you have enough, and this is just physical examples, but enough credit cards that you can buy multiple pairs of shoes. I like to use my credit cards because it helps me build my credit, it helps me use my credit. I don't have to front any of my own cash. I know a lot of people will use privacy, which is totally fine, but it does have some fees, involved with that. And then you don't get the credit card points and cash back that you would receive when buying with credit cards. And also with the credit cards, I know with Capital One and with Citi, you can do virtual credit cards, which is basically the same thing that privacy offers you, and it's a free service. The main thing though with your capital is you want to try to have at least a couple $1,000 to play with. The more money you have, then the more money you can make. So I usually tend to run a lot of credit cards on each release just to try to maximize the amount of pairs that I can get and then maximize the amount of profit I can make off of the pairs that I got. If you're trying to get into reselling, you want to be able to buy at least a couple pairs of each shoe or multiples. Obviously if you're focusing on something that's more of a limited release, it's a little bit easier to buy 1 or 2 shoes, sometimes even just one. Like if it's like off-white Jordan 4s, you're gonna make $1,000 on one shoe. But again, if you're trying to resell and make a profit, you're trying to go for every release because every release is profitable. The next point we'll go ahead and jump into is gonna be networking. Okay, so for the third tip we have is networking, the next category. So for networking, what this means is, what is your network on where can you sell shoes, where can you buy them, where can you move them, who do you know, and all these kind of things. So obviously we have the big third parties of GOAT and StockX. You also have eBay, you also have Grail, things like that where you can flip your shoes and other items. So I would definitely recommend if you can get a bulk buyer within your local area. Tips on how to do that would be, something like if you have a local store that, like a local boutique that buys and sells shoes, similar to people that know like Round 2 or Riff LA or places like that, you can jump into those people and be like, hey, I'm into sneaker botting or whatever it is. If you have the backdoor plug, hey, I'm gonna have, let's just say 100 pairs of this shoe. I can get them for 120 bucks. Will you buy them from me for 130 or 140 or whatever the price is? That's definitely how I end up selling a lot of my shoes. It's just easier than rather than have to deal with the next option, which would be selling to your locals. So, don't sleep on your locals, especially if they're people that you know or like you went to school with or even you work with or whatever. Hey, if you can sell them, let's say, a Jordan general release that you pay 200 bucks for and they'll pay you 240, like that's definitely a good return, and it can be better than what some bulk buyers will pay. So those are definitely things you can do to increase your network, is definitely try to look into bulk buyers if you can find them. I know that on like certain cook groups or locally you can find those people. I would say another thing to suggest for building your network and your brand is definitely your social media presence. So when I first started, I got really big in Instagram and Facebook, and I literally sold everything on Instagram and Facebook. No eBay, GOAT and StockX weren't a thing yet. And that's how I built up like kind of a client base. So when I have shoes come in, I know like, oh, if I have a size 10.5 come, I know that this guy's gonna buy it for this price. That's people that aren't my bulk buyers. So, definitely trying to expand your local network and then also your global network. Building a brand is definitely very important. And I'd say that's something that's worked and helped really well for me. But the bulk buyer is definitely the biggest one you can focus on. Okay, so now we're gonna jump into the fourth and final topic that I know everybody's always been asking me about, and that's bots. So we're gonna jump over into the computer screen and I'll show you some of the bots that I usually run. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about bots. What bots do I run? What's my setup? What proxies, what servers, what delays, all these kind of questions that I get. What bot should I use? What bot should I buy? And all these things. So what I would say, if you're a beginner botter, right now on the screen we have Cyber and Kodai up, Cyber in the left hand and Kodai in the bottom right. These bots are obviously worth their money, but if you're a beginner botter and you want to put out, it's very expensive to buy these bots. In the resale market they can be upwards of $5,000 or even more. So I would say if you're just starting into botting, it's best that you start with something like Nike Shoebot. Nike Shoebot's $499 annually, and it gives you pretty much everything you could run on Cyber and Kodai or even other bots. It's definitely an all-in-one bot. You can run all the big things like Shopify, the foot sites. You can run Easy Supply, Adidas. You just can't run Finish Line and JD Sports, which that is a big difference. But Nike Shoebot at least gives you the idea of this is what botting is like, and is it something that you like? Do you enjoy it? Are you having good success? Do you have fun with it? And it kind of gives you a good taste of what botting is like. I don't really use Nike Shoebot as much anymore, but I do use it still sometimes, and surprisingly, it still does hold on its own. I would say this is just a really great beginner bot. A little bit about my story: I bought Nike Shoebot in May. I did very well with it in the first month that I ended up buying Cyber, and then I did Cyber for a month. I did really well with it, and then I ended up buying Kodai and Splashforce. So I would say it just depends on what you're going for. If you're trying to get just one or two pairs of shoes for yourself on easier simple releases, like a general release or something, maybe you just buy Nike Shoebot and that's what works for you. If you're trying to get 100 pairs or crazy numbers like that, maybe you go for something like a Cyber or a Kodai. It all just depends on what you're trying to get, what's your preference, how many pairs are you trying to get, what shoes are you going for, what websites you're focusing on, and that'll determine on which bot you want to try to get. As far as the proxies, the servers, all of that information, the video sponsor for today is Oculus Proxies and Oculus Servers. Those are the people that I've been rocking with since the beginning. They're definitely the GOAT. Nothing but good things to say about Oculus. I use the residential proxies, I use the private residential proxies, I use their Datacenter proxies, the Supreme proxies, the server, that's what I'm running on. I'm running on the Oculus Godlike server, and it's able to handle all of my bots and everything that I run. So it definitely recommend Oculus. There'll be a little discount code, WTROY will be the code, and you can save, it's about up to 25% on the proxies, and I think 15% on the server. I'll have all that information in the description for you. If you're looking for a good server or you're looking for good proxies, definitely check out Oculus. Highly recommend them. That's what, like I said, I've been using. Every release that I run, those are the proxies and the server I run with. So definitely highly recommend Oculus if you're needing to get proxies or you need a server to run all your bots on. As far as the bots, again, like I said, Cyber and Kodai are my big ones that I've been using a lot recently. I haven't run Kodai on an actual release yet, only Cyber. Cyber has been holding it down, but Kodai is definitely, I'm really excited to really give it a chance. As you can see on the screen, there's a couple of things that I've done restocks for and such, but I haven't really given it a good shot on an actual release. But again, as far as when people ask, what proxies and what servers and what profiles and Gmails and do you jig your address and all of this stuff, I'll have to go into that in another video just because there's a lot that goes into that. I would say the best thing you can do is try to get into a cook group. So the cook groups that I'm in is Mommy's Kitchen, which is Sneaker Mommy's group, and then I'm also in Saber.io, which is Unlimited Cops group. Both are really great groups. I tend to be more active in Mommy's Kitchen, so if you end up getting a membership into Mommy's Kitchen, definitely say hello. But if you aren't able to get into a cook group right now, because I know a lot of them sell out very fast, definitely always have follow their Twitter accounts and put your notifications on, tweet notifications. That way you can know when those people are restocking. There's other groups like Notify and Oil Cop and other ones that are a little bit more expensive, but also very good groups. So I would say if you're trying to have questions or you're curious on what you need to do with botting, maybe joining a cook group first is your best call, because $35, $40, $50 a month, you can have access to a lot of smart and people and talented people that are in the botting community and ask them all the questions. There's a lot of support and stuff. A lot of people that are willing to help each other out and help you learn. So as far as my setup and stuff, obviously you can see some things here on the screen. I was running for the satin snakeskin ones earlier, just on some restocks, hit a pair, but I think it's gonna get canceled because all the checkouts were size 7, so I think it's ghost stock. But again, I'll make videos on each one of these bots, on my setup, and maybe a little bit more about how they work and maybe how you create tasks. I can definitely do that for Nike Shoe Bot, because I know with this, like I said, this is a very good beginner bot. It's what I started with, what I learned with, and it really helped me get to the next level to be able to buy Cyber and Kodai and all these other bots. So as far as the bots, that's kind of everything I have for them. Again, a lot of things that go into them, and it's a lot of mainly just trial and error and testing, unfortunately, because everybody's setup is different, everybody runs different, everybody's got different computers and different servers and different proxies and stuff, and different credit cards and all privacy and all the things that go into them, where people use different things. So I'll make videos on each bot to kind of give you an overview at least of what I do and what works for me. And then definitely be on the lookout for live cops. I know there's a lot of releases coming up this weekend and at the end of this week, so be on the lookout for some live cop videos. I'll try to maybe do one a week at least to kind of give you an overview of everything that happened that week for me. So hopefully we can take some W's so that those videos are more entertaining than taking L's. We don't want to take L's if we can avoid it. So other than that, that's pretty much it for this first video on how to become a successful reseller. And other than that, I'm W. Troy, and I'm out. I'll catch you guys in the next video.